not really into hard liquor. Like I don't really drink whiskey and stuff like that. So one of my good friends introduced me to old fashions.
What's old fashions?
Old fashioned is pretty much either bourbon or rye whiskey with like 2 cubes of sugar, orange bitter. The crazy thing, I didn't drive to Hollywood. I got my DUI driving from my friend's house to my house when we got to his house after we were drinking. So I passed out, dude. I blacked out for like 3 seconds. Closed my eyes. I kind of fell asleep, and next thing I know, I was on top of the sidewalk. I got into an accident by myself. I literally went over a sidewalk. And so I didn't get pulled over. It was more like I just
after
hit the sidewalk, and then my phone was dead, and I hit the transmission, so my car wouldn't start at all. So I just sat on the sidewalk until someone called the cops. What happened was, they asked me, because no one saw me driving, and I didn't have the keys on my possession. They were inside they were on the ignition. So, it took like a year to get a DUI because they couldn't prove that I was driving.
No first-hand witness.
Yeah, but it was the most obvious thing that I wasn't the first time.
Right.
That's just the truth. You never get caught the first time you drink and drive. You know what I mean?
Is that right?
Yeah. It's not like it's usually you haven't had it to because it's not that you think I didn't get caught, so I'm gonna do it again. It's just you don't think about it.
Because you aren't caught, you don't feel the consequences.
Right. You literally feel like I'm good. You take that decision that you're just good. I mean, you feel boss and everything. But it was bad. I mean, I'm telling you. How many
actual drinks did you have that night?
Oh, dude, I was hammered.
Well, you said you had, like, what were they called? Old fashioned. How many of those did you have?
I probably had like 5 or 6.
5 or 6
I had like
old fashioned.
3 or 4 Stellas, right?
Okay.
So my friend called me and was like, dude, it was his day off. So he called me. So I didn't drive to Hollywood. My friend drove. He was drinking too.
Right.
You know what I mean? And then when we got home, we stopped to get like Mexican food too. We decided to get. And then I got to his house. I passed out for an hour and a half. So we got to the house like at 12. I went home at 3 in the morning because I had to work at 6, and I didn't want to stay at his house. And I thought I was good. As soon as you wake up for a 3-hour nap, you don't feel drunk.
Yeah. But it's still in your system.
And
it's still affecting your.
And that's the other thing.
Yeah.
I don't know what happened, but when I was like driving, like when I was about to get into the freeway, it just hit me. And I kind of like closed my eyes for like 3 seconds. The next thing I know, I had the sidewalk right next to me. and that's how you know you're drunk, because I had time to stop. I had time to brake.
Yeah.
I really did. Probably like 5 seconds. That's time enough. Yeah. But instead of braking, I accelerated. I got confused because it was a manual car. Yeah. So I pressed the clutch, and instead of downshifting and press and push the brake, I accelerated. And I went on top of the sidewalk.
Wow.
Thank God I didn't hit anyone, man.
Yeah.
I had to pay a lot of money. You got enrolled to a lot of programs. You have to do community work.
Like community service?
Yeah, like I have to go to Sun Valley and do 12 days, 8 hours a day of getting rid of like graffitis and stuff like that.
Oh, okay.
So I gotta do that.
Well, thank God there's that as an alternative to
I was in jail
time,
for 7 hours, but it's not like
7 hours.
But 7 hours, dude. But I hated jail.
That's good. That was probably an instructive time for you, huh?
Dude, it was like the best psychologist I could ever go to.
The best psychologist?
Yeah. I was like, I saw my life like passing by my eyes for like a second. I was like, Jesus.
Wow. Was it rough in there?
You know what it is? It's like you always think to yourself, I'm never gonna go to jail. Like I'm like a nice guy. I don't do stuff. I'm not crazy. I don't get into fights. I'm not gonna rob anyone. Why would I be in jail? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So you get that mentality, and once you're actually in jail, you're like, holy shit, how did this happen? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And you feel that kind of guilt. You kind of feel like a criminal, which to us, like my alcohol content was 0.14. The limit is 0.08. But if I were to go to 0.16, then it wouldn't be a misdemeanor. It would be a felony.
Wow.
Because then you're super intoxicated. That's like a different level of intoxication. See, another thing is like I didn't make any public destruction, or I didn't hit anything, any private property either. So that's good too, because as long as I didn't hit anyone, it can be a felony. So I had 3 years probation. I have to get into this. You got to go to 6 class of 8 months of safety driving. I gotta go to a morgue program where you like pretty much see like videos of like people that have died. And
I've heard about that one.
And this class, which is the hospital, whatever, they just talk about DUIs. A lot of things, and everything costs money. Like
you have to pay for everything.
Hell yeah. $250 for each class. $250 for that one. $250 for another. That's $500. $600 for the 3 months program.
Wow.
I had to pay $200 for the enrollment of my community work. Imagine I have $3,000 on the lawyer, $1,800 on court fees.
Wow. So what's the total cost?
That includes me counting like that I have to put a breathalyzer on my car so I can start it for like 5 months. I gotta pay the reinstitution of my license, which I already can do. I already can get my license, and that's at $200. And then I gotta pay for a special liability insurance called SR22.
So if you keep a clean nose during probation, then all this won't stay on your record?
Well, I can sponge it. Yeah, I can get rid of it after 5 years. Yes.
Oh, really? But if you mess up during probation, then it stays.
Then it could stay up to 10 years. What really bumps it up is how much you're willing to pay for a lawyer.
Oh, really?
That's the cost. That's what really bumps it up from lawyers. They guarantee me I can get you off that DUI because no one saw you driving, but it's $9,000. You can call the cop that arrested you, and we can ask him to do the same field sobriety test that you did to see how accurate it is.
Wow.
And they can call the cop back and ask the officer, how did it happen? And they compare it to what he said at that time to see, if there's any discrepancy, you can argue that he was lying. Bring that breathalyzer that you used. See if it was working properly. They don't know what breathalyzer they used, but so they're like stuff that adds up, and they're like, you know what, fucking just drop. I mean, if let's say if I had the money and if I was in that situation, I would probably pay it, yeah. But then it would probably not have the same impact that I had in my life for good,
Right.
Because you do learn. You learn.
So you're thankful, actually.
Because it made me realize that I have to change a lot of stuff. It made me realize that I might have problems with alcohol, which most people have. It's just being called an alcoholic. It's really hard to hear you're an alcoholic. Because to you, an alcoholic, you have an image of an alcoholic, and to you, an alcoholic, someone you see in the street, like
stagging around, dirty.
Oh my God, he does his drink.
Yeah.
You like to be called a social drinker. I drink socially.
Right. It sounds more respectable.
Yeah, it sounds more like dignifying. You know what I mean? Like you're drunk, dude. You fucking get drunk every time you drink. You're an alcoholic. Simple as that. You know. And all my friends are probably alcoholics. I still drink. Don't get me wrong. I acknowledge the fact, but I still drink. I'm just trying to be more like responsible with my drinking and that's why I take Uber, or maybe if I know I don't have I try to budget in like the cost of Uber. Yeah. Because if I go to a night downtown, from downtown to here, it's probably $15 Uber. What's that? That's a shot in a beer. That's your Uber ride. When you think about, oh my God, I have to pay for Uber, but when you're in the bar, you're drinking 3 shots. What I'm saying, like you just feel like an asshole. You feel like a douchebag. Like why would you? Yeah. But you don't see that when you don't get caught. You made it home.
Right. you don't feel the weight of your poor decision making because
Right.
no one puts it in your face.
And it's just like that in every aspect of your life, dude. You get to that conclusion, you know.
Yeah.
Everything. When it doesn't affect what you do, you don't realize how much it affects other. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, that's a good observation.
Yeah.
Alcoholism has actually negatively impacted my family for generations.
Yeah.
You know, my dad, unfortunately, has been an alcoholic most of his life, and I remember when I was a kid and how it was there were some extremely uncomfortable situations that resulted from his drunkenness. You know.
Yeah.
The main reason is I'm a Christian.
Right.
God says don't be drunk.
Right.
That's reason enough.
Yeah.
But then
Right.
the familial experience kind of just underscores why God doesn't want people drunk. And then another reason is because I just don't like the taste of most alcohol. That's the least important reason.
Yeah, it's the same with me, dude. Like my mom has been an alcoholic all her life, and you know, my sister and I suffer a lot from that.
Mm-hmm.
And well, because we never had a dad like that, so it's pretty much that's what it is. Your only example that you have for life, it's the person that raised you, you know.
Yeah.
So you could either go the way you went or go the way I went. You know, you have probably two options.
Okay, so earlier you did say you acknowledged that
Right.
you have a problem with alcohol,
Right.
but there's the problem that means, like, you could be one of those guys who has a problem and won't acknowledge it. Like,
Right.
you'll drink and drink and drink and think you're Superman.
Yeah.
But you strike me as someone who acknowledges he has a problem,
Right.
and once you had this kind of wake-up call, you sound like someone who's going to use this to change your behavior.
Yeah.
Permanent.
And I have a lot.